This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
.07 at WPSL 1590, the talk of the Treasure Coast, and you're on with Ask a Rabbi.
And this is Rabbi Shafir Loeb of Congregation Eitz Chaim on this beautiful Friday before Dorian. BD before Dorian. And so here we go. We're having some technical challenges. We're having
this is good.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, you can see it. So we have my front-facing video doesn't work, so we have to use the rear-facing, but that lets Greg see what's going on.
I can see you.
And he gets to be the cameraman, so he knows how to do that. So we're in good shape. We're going to, tweak it however you need to.
You're getting a call from Tacoma, and I don't know what to do.
I think just ignore it, and it'll go away in a minute.
Okay.
And we'll be fine. The joys of... let's pick right now to do our thing. Yeah, I can hear it buzzing in there. Okay. All right. Maybe it's a call from the storm. I don't know. So a couple of things to let people know, certainly for any of my members that are out there. We are a member of the Union for Reform Judaism and the URJ. And they actually have a Dorian response team in Florida. So if we need to, we can connect through them, and we are to keep them apprised of how our members are doing. But they've also got emergency packets if people need them.
Oh, wow.
All kinds of things, yeah. So they've actually set up a response thing. And one of my friends and colleagues wrote a poem, not a poem, but wrote a prayer actually for it. I'm going to leave you with a copy of it, and if anybody wants a copy of it, they can either check the temple Facebook page or my personal Facebook page, and the link to that prayer is there. And that prayer says, Avinu Shebashamayim, and that means our Father who art in heaven. God of the heavens, nature, and all that you have created are truly awesome. Often we take these wonders for granted. Teach us to cherish all of your gifts. Try as we might, we know that we cannot control the oceans, the mountains, the weather. We also firmly believe that ever since the time of Noah, you do not send floods, make the earth shake, or dispatch weather formations such as hurricanes as warnings or punishments. So we ask, as this hurricane approaches land and approaching our brothers and sisters, that you shelter all who will be in its path. Watch over everyone, their loved ones, friends, and fellow people, many of whom are preparing to evacuate. Guard them as they prepare, perhaps to leave their homes yet again. Give them strength, courage, and resolve to ride out this storm. Answer their prayers and ours, that they be blessed with goodness and be spared from harm. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shekocho gevurato malei olam. Blessed are you, a source of blessings are you, source of life and nature, whose awesome power and strength fill our world and inspire us to be strong in the face of all of life's difficulties.
I like that.
And let us say amen. Yeah, so that's why I said I made some extra copies. I will have copies at tonight's services, Friday night services, for anyone who'd like to take one along. Yeah, it's a beautiful
Sounds like an ecumenical type of prayer. It's very ecumenical.
Yeah, well, a lot of the things, certainly the things that we do at our congregation are in that category for the most part. And, it's as I've said other times, it's one God who created one universe. We'd be foolish to think that there's more than one, right? So
that's very cool.
Yeah. So, that's a prayer, and I particularly love it because the rabbi is not only the rabbi of a Reform congregation, but he's also a renewal rabbi, which is what I am. So, there's certainly a large number of us out there, and that's the kind of prayer I might have written had I had 2 minutes to rub together besides putting up shutters.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the temptation to get that shatterproof glass gets increasingly tempting.
Yeah.
but I am still a renter, so I talked to the owner of that. He lives up in Canada, the owner of our house, and he's like, "Oh, you are putting up shutters?" I said, "Yeah, we're going to be safe. We're going to be fine." And it's a good cinder block construction. Although I will tell you that last night, I have to confess, I'm looking at the phone and I'm watching the path move. First it was north of Melbourne, then it's coming south of Melbourne.
Yeah.
Then and then it, the line is over my house. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Really? Fortunately, this morning, as I had expected, it has moved and shifted. And I feel for whoever is in that crosshair. I guess they're predicting that it's going to break up pretty quickly once it hits land.
Yeah.
That it's going to go like boom down to a 1 almost immediately.
Well, it's still powerful.
That's still powerful. It's a powerful storm.
But it's not a 4.
It's not a 4, and this will be the third significant storm in a few years that we've gone through, and obviously the people who went through Francis and Jean, and the folks who went through Andrew, and all my nephew who lives in Florida has been here since before Andrew. So
that was just devastating.
Yeah, he was actually almost humorous with the last one was, I'm trying to think, was it Irma or Matthew? I lose track of them. Oh, that's a beautiful red thing on your monitor there.
Oh man,
it's not as big as the last one that came across Florida.
Yeah.
That one, he lost power almost immediately. He lives down in Miami, in the Miami Beach area, and he lost power immediately. He was without power for almost 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We kept in contact because he went to work. He went to work basically the day we were being hit by the storm. He was already back at work, and he would plug his phone in because they had power, and he charged everything up at work. So, yeah, storms are interesting. I listen to folks, and probably the worst part about something like this is the fear. And so I'm gonna flip into a little bit of the psychology side of me, and rabbi things and all kinds of stuff. One of the things that's really important to do is, this is going to sound strange, drink enough water. Because one of the things that we do when we get afraid is we dehydrate.
I was going to get rum.
That does not help your hydration. That does not help your hydration. And so it is important to drink some water.
Drink water. Okay.
Drink water, and it also helps reestablish the electronic balance. One of the things that wind does is it shears. That's an awesome picture. Yay!
Keep going south.
Keep so it's even further south. Okay.
Yeah.
West Palm,
Love
folks. Take care. And
Keep
there's
going
the 3
south.
and 1 right away.
Yep. Yeah, but it's coming over our head at that point.
Well, at least
it's still a 1.
Yeah, it's still a 1,
Yeah.
and certainly our hearts are to whoever ends up in its crosshairs. And Floridians know how to handle it, and the stores are already crazy.
Oh yeah, they
And-
are. It was like Christmas
Yeah.
today. It was
Yes,
terrible.
the stores in some ways are probably not all that unhappy when this happens because they get to clear off their shelves. And we won't mention the supermarket that I gave. We buy those meals that sit on the shelf that you wouldn't eat the rest of the year, but we call them MREs. It's our military background.
Sure.
They don't need refrigeration. They just need to be nuked. And worst comes to worst, you eat them cold.
There's a funny thing on Facebook. Everybody's a vegan until a hurricane and it shows empty shelves. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, so we have some of those things and some canned goods and what have you. Pop Tops are nice. I'm finding that I like those kinds of things a whole lot more. So, it's a matter of being practical, being logical, not being stupid. And, people are like, oh, the weather's already bad. No, it's not bad. It's gorgeous out there. It's a beautiful sunny day. And I keep thinking back to what it must have been like when the Okeechobee hurricane, right? People don't even think about that. When that one came across what would have been Port St. Lucie had we been here, sailed across Okeechobee, overflowed its banks. It had a storm surge. something awful actually for the people that were living there.
The Glades.
Right, and
Oh.
and continued on across Florida, and then it took out Galveston. It went right across the coast. One of the worst hurricanes in history. And that's, I don't know, when was that one? Do you
I
remember?
think that was 27. wasn't it?
27? I know it was a long,
Yeah,
fairly long
yeah.
time ago. So we're talking almost 100 years ago.
That was what, 1,800 lives or something
Yeah,
like that,
that was-
in Belglade alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, part of that, of course, was that we didn't have what we have today.
Sure.
Right. We didn't know 4 or 5 days ahead. We couldn't put up shutters. We didn't have cinder block construction. People were caught out in the storm in the storm because they didn't know it was coming. They were out in the fields. They were, carrying stuff that ended up smacking them in the face and doing all kinds of things. And I like to tell people that it's a little bit like a slow-moving tornado, except that with a tornado, you really have no idea where it's going to hit and what it's going to take out. And the damage is more confined because the path is a little bit narrower, but not because it's the intensity is still there. Right? We have different categories of tornadoes, and having lived through the Xenia outcrop, as that was called, that was impressive.
I forgot. You were
Yeah.
at Goodyear then, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So, maybe that's part of why I'm not as panicked with a hurricane. I know it's coming. I know whether or not I'm in the path. It's just a question of how much damage the wind's going to do.
We were opening the Dodger season in '89 in Cincinnati, and a tornado struck 8 blocks from the stadium, killed I forget whether it was a dozen people and I'd never been in anything like that.
Yeah, tornadoes right now are very, very much more deadly in their own way. Just because we know to evacuate, we know to bolster, we know to hunker down, whatever phrases you want to use. We know how to make ourselves safer, and that has minimized.
We were doing a live pregame show. I'll never forget it. And the speaker in the stadium said, evacuate the stadium. And and of course, our director in Los Angeles is hearing that. He said, keep going. And he said, so I was like, oh, great.
It's like the people on the weather. I look at those people on the Weather Channel,
yeah.
right? It's
Yeah,
like,
been there, done that.
You're going where to do what?
Been there, done that. Oh, yeah.
So right now, preparing pets. Yeah, they're going to get a little rattled.
I'll bet they will.
Yeah, it'll be loud. It'll be noisy. Although I have to tell you, I was personally very surprised in the previous 2 hurricanes how quiet my house was, even in the storm with the shutters up. There just it was a whole lot more quiet than I thought.
Stuart brought out something interesting with skylights and how much noisier it is.
Okay, well, I don't have skylights, so
Yeah.
so I don't that wouldn't surprise me because they're not shuttered typically. Now, I don't know if the shatterproof glass is as quiet.
I
don't know. I've got a couple friends who...
We're never at home.
Yeah.
We're always here. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I have some friends who have shatterproof glass, and I have to ask them if it's going to be quiet or not. I'll be talking to them on the phone probably. I'm thinking that I might do a podcast during storm passage, because with today's computers, you know when it's right overhead.
Sure.
You know when it's there, and without having to go outside and check and do something foolish. So all of that, we know more to do that, and certainly, I'm warning our members to connect in if they need to at the temple. We'll work at getting up to it and if needed. Right. So there's a variety of things. Safety first, and we'll see who gets to keep power this time.
That's right.
That's always the big question: who gets to keep power? And I'm charging up my iPad, which doesn't seem to want to live stream today, my phone, and to get have a couple of those extra batteries. It does not want to live stream at all.
Our entire electronic lives now. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is. So
now your college.
Okay, so the congregation will live, but I can't personally. Okay, got it. Should have put it there. Okay, next time we will. Maybe we will just do that. Okay.
So your college is off.
My college is the college is closed today. very wisely. There's not as many classes on Friday. It's mostly staff that do things, and they need to be home shuttering. They need to be getting ready. That's probably the biggest interference, if you will, in our lives. Not as much the storm passage, although it certainly does its damage and all kinds of things happen. But you've got 1 to 2 days of shuttering and prepping and shopping, and then you've got however many days of cleanup and waiting for power and all of that other stuff on the other side of it. So it's more it's more the before and after, if you will, that disrupts lives and makes you think about things. But it brings back to a little bit of what I talked about last week, and I'm going to offer this out to people. This is a reminder to treasure each moment, to
Sure.
do what's important. Right? These serve as reminders, and as the prayer says, God said at Noah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to flood the world out. Certainly areas can get flooded. Certainly Katrina took out a whole city and then some. Right, and they still haven't recovered, but that's not.
Well, that's a whole different.
That's a
problem.
whole big story. Yes, you're right.
The Corps of Engineers has been working on Lake Pontchartrain since the 40s.
Yeah, and still haven't. Never mind.
And they were never even close to getting that thing done by Katrina.
No, and and they were pushed into some decisions that perhaps were not in everybody's best interest. And it is hard when people are looking to keep costs down and or they're looking for profits. It's sometimes hard to keep the bigger picture in mind. But that's important. We used to, when I worked at Goodyear, we had a saying, which was pay me now or pay me later.
Oh, sure. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. You either put the money in the investment up front and you think about all the possibilities, or you end up scrambling either after or right before.
Well, and you think about the Goodyear saying, how many times do you hear about rollover accidents that are actually tire related?
Oh yeah, well, yeah,
and not car related.
Yeah.
Well, I mean it's all the same thing, but
it's yeah. Well, and those some of those are very preventable by just checking your tires.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm terrible at that.
Having said that, yesterday I got in my car to go to the classes that I teach. I teach a class in Port St. Lucie and in Stewart on Thursday. So I'm, run 1, run 2, and then come home. And I get in the car and I had a flat tire.
Oh no.
So I had to take the hubby's car, which of course thrilled him. And ran to my classes, and then I had to go get the flat tire fixed, because that's kind of a really important thing to do. So yeah, and that of course it was a road hazard, and thank you for
warranty.
Yeah,
Yep.
Well, and that's true, right? There's been so much infilling in Port St. Lucie and Fort Pierce and in all the areas nearby. Folks, be aware there are more road hazard for your tire out there.
You bet.
So. We were able to pump up the tire with we keep an air compressor. We're old-time campers with motorhome, and you have a generator and a compressor and things like that, just because we've always had them. And so he was able to fill the tire, and I was able to drive it to the car place, and they took it right in and fixed it. So I was very, very lucky that way. And, yeah. So hopefully everybody will take care. We'll get the things done. I feel for the people who are in the gas lines and for anybody who didn't get enough water. Hopefully, it's always such a challenge, right? The people who bring in 30 containers of 30 cases of water for 2 people. It's like, really, that's probably a little overkill. And so the balance of hoarding. And one of the things that we do in my house is we load up on 6 cases of water in the beginning of the season, and we just maintain those cases.
Sure.
And that way we got up Wednesday in the morning. My other half woke me a little bit earlier than I usually get up on a Wednesday, and said, let's go shopping and let's do the hurricane shopping. So we bought the last minute stuff.
Smart move.
And it was already, people were starting to pile up, but we didn't have to get any water. We didn't buy any water because we had our supply and we had the canned goods and stuff like that. And we just do that. We've learned, we live in this area, you plan, because the problem isn't so much what the hurricane does as what the people do in preparation for the hurricane.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to be a couple of, could be a week or two. It was a week or two last time because of the evacuation. So because that really jammed up the roads, and like FedEx didn't come down and UPS didn't come down. They didn't send a driver down into Florida because they weren't going to be able to get back.
Well, and you have the double whammy because this is a holiday weekend. You have the natural progression that the turnpike is full anyway leaving Florida, and now you add this over and above that. Yeah.
So what can I say? You learned. I learned fairly quickly to stock up on stuff that you're going to need, do reasonable precautions, and don't do stupid things that you're going to feel, you're going to be sorry for. I guess that's the bottom line. And it's important to think. This is a very important time to keep your head about you, and to remember that life is for living. Enjoy it. So I'm going to offer people, if there's flowers in your garden or in a nearby garden, take a moment and look at them because they probably won't survive the storm. Maybe take a couple of pictures.
Stuart was talking about having all the new landscaping. I'm thinking, oh no.
Well, the first hurricane we went through, Stuart posted a thing that says, take a lottery, how many coconuts will fall. Not one of his coconuts fell, so. On the other hand, my papaya tree went and it was gone.
Oh, no.
So, and my poor banana tree looked like it had been molested, for lack of a better word. I have before and after pictures of that poor banana tree.
Yeah, we're going to take pictures of this huge tree that's right behind the house. One of the branches from way up top fell right behind our house. I was thinking if it had fallen on the house, there would have been a lot of damage. And, we cut up all the smaller branches, but, I mean, the actual trunk of it was like 10 feet long.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. And I'm thinking, boy, that really would have caused damage.
How long did that take you to chop up?
Well, actually, the smaller branches didn't take long at all, but it took both of us to drag the thing out to the curb. Yeah. And fortunately, they do pick that sort of thing up here, so that's helpful too. Yeah, it's some of my friends in Tucson said, would you like to have a eucalyptus tree in Florida? And my thought was, well, they're called the widowmakers because they drop limbs at the drop of a hat. And it was like until one hurricane, and then it would be in the next county. Sure, yeah,
because it would not stay in one piece.
Yeah,
it just wouldn't.
Yeah.
Windstorms take them down.
Yeah.
So, the trees that we've got, that's why the native Florida...
We need saguaros here. That's what we need. Oh.
I think saguaros probably would survive because they've got a narrow profile. Unless they had a weak
We saw some
root.
form of cactus in the Everglades. The small, obviously nothing like a saguaro, but yeah. But I don't know whether it could survive here.
There's cirrus. We've got cirrus in our front yard. I just replanted a couple of weeks ago. I replanted my cirrus out front, and hopefully it'll stay vertical this time. It's nice and heavy, and but yeah. So that's the kind of cactus that grows here. I actually do have a saguaro in my back porch. It's going to come in the house.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Not because I think it would be fine on the ground. I don't think it's going to get airborne. But I don't want something hitting it and damaging it.
Sure.
I'll maximize its potential to stay in one piece by moving it into my nice cinder block house that we live in. And I'm very grateful for those. I'm watching there's some construction not far from me that is wood construction. I am really surprised.
I didn't know they were still building wood houses.
I didn't think people could still do it. So maybe somebody, one of our listeners might call me and let me know if that is. I mean, I'm guessing it's to code because, it's a huge complex. It's apartment houses. They're putting up,
okay.
and they're wood. Now, in tradition, I see cinder block construction.
Right.
But here, this is on Gatlin, and it's all wood.
Wow.
Yeah, I was quite surprised. So somebody let me know that I'm surprised that that's allowed in this part of Florida. So give me a call, 772-340-1590, asking anybody in the city about the code.
It would still have to be the new whatever that Miami or South Florida code is for hurricanes.
You would think.
Yeah.
Although it looks
all
just
homes
looks
have
like 2x4s going up with
Wow. My concern for your temple is all the construction going on across the street at the stadium. I'm thinking, oh man.
I think we're kind of like inside and down in. So
Yeah. Wow.
we've got a nice overhang. There wasn't even any debris in front of it last time, so I'm hopeful it'll stay the same way. It'll be what it'll be.
Yeah.
And I think it lost a little bit of power last time. There's a container of. We'll have to make sure we eat all the ice cream this Friday that's in the freezer, just in case we lose power. There you go. Yeah, that goes along with a vegan until.
Yes.
It's a good excuse to eat the cake and the ice cream. Make sure everything gets used up, and so it's a balance between storing stuff, and being. So that you don't lose stuff.
Yeah.
And, most refrigerators will hold for a while. But again,
for a good
long while.
4 or 5 hours.
And when somebody, the death toll is just not that extreme these days. That sounds callous, but not like it used to be, like in the Galveston, right, where thousands of people died in hurricanes. Because we didn't have any warning, we didn't have the kind of construction, and we didn't know as much about how to handle it and how to stay hopefully calm in it. So, not giving into the fears and the panics, and not, being rational about it, and don't do that slippery slope and that all those other fallacies.
Whether it's the National Guard or whether it's the Coast Guard. I mean, they also do an amazing job of water rescues.
They do. They absolutely do. And, and my advice would obviously be different if you have a small, simple home out on the coastline and you're in the crosshairs. That's a different story, when to get off the island and come on in.
Well, there are a lot of people in Port St. Lucie who are living on the canals, so there's water all around their homes. Yeah. Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, or the folks who live close to the savannas and lots of different places to be concerned about it. But hopefully they've built their houses or rebuilt their houses to handle the situation. Although more and more people put themselves in the line of the storms, and that people just do.
It's interesting to think about, and it's funny they mentioned it several times on the Weather Channel, how much South Florida, and particularly this area of South Florida, has grown. And you think that if the population estimates are true, Port St. Lucie again will double or more than double, up to about 520 by 2025. That's not that far away.
No, it's not. And you bring up an important point, which is that I think we need to do hurricane education.
A lot of first-time hurricane
folks, and it is different the second and third time you go through it. And not to say that you get jaded to it or that you get complacent about it, because that needs to not happen. But you should know what to do. And it was one of the comments as I was walking out the door. My husband's putting up some of the window shutters and getting them out while it's beautiful and sunny. And he said, this is a whole lot easier. Third time you know how to do it, and he's got it a lot more organized.
Yeah, and you're not so frustrated. And
sure. And those are all the things that we did before season, which was to make sure you had enough bolts, all of the different parts and pieces.
God, you guys are so organized.
Well, it's two engineers. Come on now.
Yeah.
You know, there is a container marked, bolts and nuts, and he's got two power drills charged up, ready to go, and so they're screwing things in, and he's got the special little wing nut
There you go.
thingamabob
Sure.
on the, and he's mostly in charge of that because I'm busy running around teaching and doing rabbi things, and all of that. So
You're ready.
I'm as ready as I'm gonna be. I'm gonna I'm gonna stop and make one last crazy purchase somewhere along the way. He put a request in for cookies.
Oh!
I am married to the Cookie Monster, and we came home from our shopping, and I looked at him and I said, we didn't buy any cookies.
Carol bought some last night. Yeah.
And he's like, I can't face being locked in the house without cookies. So I'm gonna stop and see who's got some nice cookies for him.
There you go.
But those are important things. It's important to give yourself some of the stuff that you want. I went and got a couple of magazines that I've been looking to read, and a book, and they're sitting there, and I will hopefully take some time and do some of that. I do a little bit of different art projects, and I'll do some of those, and if the internet's up and running, I'll do some work on it, and we'll move
That's
forward.
Cool.
Yeah. I was tasked with writing some articles off of my dissertations. I've got a coach who's working with me, and he said, I want to see some articles, and I'm thinking to myself, I was gonna use Wednesday to work on it. Instead I did Hurricane, but I might have a chance to write some while we sit tight with the hurricane. I'm gonna take a wild guess that probably things will be pretty shut down on Tuesday in Port St. Lucie and Fort Pierce.
Yeah, it looks like it now.
So I don't know. My students will be very happy. They know they'll get an extension. Yeah, we said that this week. If we don't have class on Tuesday, look for an added day to do your work. And
So how are your kids this year?
pretty good. Got a good crop of students, and I'm always pleasantly surprised with students in a good way. Not because I underestimate them, but because I try not to set any expectations, and I find that wonderful. I have to say I look out and I'm encouraged about the future based on what I see in my classes.
Okay, yeah. Mostly women?
Slightly more than men, but not mostly.
Okay.
There's a good number of men in the class, and it's a very diversified community. There's every shade under the sun, every shape of eyes.
Good.
And I like that, because we are one human race, folks. Doesn't mean racism doesn't exist, because that clearly does, but it doesn't mean that it's founded on anything real. I did discover a new fun thing in my classes called Cahoots. And Kahoot, it's an interactive online.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. And I bribe them liberally with that. They take a little quiz at the end of each class online, and they get to see the answers immediately. It's kind of cool. It's
wow.
Just a few questions. They come in on a pin. They come in on their phones, and it shows, whatever names they put in for their nicknames comes up on the screen, and it shows who's answering the question correctly and the fastest. So there's all kinds of competitive stuff that they can play and have fun with.
I'll have to ask some of the players on the bus if
Yeah,
they're
Kahoot.
into that.
Kahoot.
Okay.
The kids all know it because the high schools, I guess, use them.
Okay.
And there's
That's
a couple of
cool.
different ways to do it. Yeah, they're going to have their phones in class anyway. Might as well be using them for learning.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, you can actually do polls and all kinds of stuff with this software. I'm not that fancy, but because this is my first semester playing with it. One of my fellow teachers suggested it, and I'm enjoying it, and I think my students are.
That sounds awesome.
It is.
Yeah,
It's a little different, so a little more exciting. Bringing in technology, I think that's useful. It beats just listening to me.
I doubt that. I've told you before, I'd love to sit and audit your classes.
Well,
This has been an amazing experience, this show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I enjoy doing it, and this is as good a time as any to say, hey, folks, you can sponsor an episode of Ask a Rabbi or even a month of it. Please contact me. Let
Sure.
me know that you're interested in doing that. You get some spots, some advertising spots along with that, and certainly my appreciation. That's also a good time to mention that we're going to have, depending on the internet, I don't know that people are going to be looking for it, but High Holy Day reservations should be up and running very shortly on the internet. They're not there yet. Something about a hurricane kind of interfered with getting that.
Oh, come
up and
on.
running. Yeah, I know. It's going to be an excuse for a while. And that's what it'll be, actually, until I get it done. So that'll be up and running. I have to approve some things so it can go live and work on some other little projects we've got. We've also got the expo, our second annual expo, coming in November, that middle weekend right before Thanksgiving. So it's a little before the season, and that'll be at the Community Center on Oroso.
Mm-hmm.
And we're taking vendor reservations now. Please contact us or check on the website. The reservation's there. And that's www.eitzchaim.org. So Eitz Chaim, EITZCHAYIM.org. Or you can look for us on Facebook. Just Google Congregation Eitz Chaim, Port St. Lucie, and you'll find us.
So how many vendors are you looking for?
We can handle about 90.
Ooh, okay.
So it should be a nice full show. We've got the whole area in the...
I love that center.
Yeah, the center is wonderful. I love the parking. I love the parking across the street with the city, and I like the fact that police are right across the street. That's not bad either. A lot to be said for that facility. So we're going to be doing some things there, and then come February we have our inaugural Art and Craft Fest, Fine Arts and an Art and Craft, and a Direct Seller Fest. All of those will be occurring simultaneously. As they get bigger, they'll parse out, but we're going to start them all together. So that's in February, the middle weekend in February. So if you'd like to reserve a booth for that, and if you'd like a booth for both the expo and the February, then we'll work a deal with you. Give you a discount for 2 for 1.
So you can get some artwork for Valentine's Day.
Yes, you can.
Ooh.
Yeah, some
Good
nice
timing
things.
on your part.
Yeah, I thought so. Or some nice crafts as a gift.
Yeah.
Lots of really good things, and maybe some pretty flowers. Who knows? There's one of the vendors that we had at the expo. Well, the last one last year had flour. They made a kind of a clay out of potato, and the flowers they made were absolutely gorgeous. That's just one of the booths. So we had, I don't remember how many, but a lot. We filled 2 whole rooms at the Civic Center.
Wow.
Last year.
You
So
should talk to the folks down on Jenkins. Have a orchid farm.
yeah, Odin.
Yeah, Odin's. You okay? Yeah. Okay. Bingo. You got it. Yeah.
So we'll talk to a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And folks, if you're interested, please contact or you can call the temple. Again, all the information for contacts on our website. You can give me a call in here too as well. 772-340-1590. So lots of exciting things coming up. We've got, and I promised last week that I would have the dates for the Taste of Judaism. We put that on hold for Dorian. We'll announce the dates next week post Dorian, post Dorian.
That's if we're still here.
I'm sure we will be.
We'll be here.
You know, I have to tell you that I was once talking with somebody in one of the islands in the Caribbean, and she was really kind of funny. She said, "Well, I really can't talk right now because we're boarding up for a hurricane." She said, "Give me a call next Thursday." And I said, "Are you sure?" And she says, "Yeah, it'll be after the hurricane and everything will be down. We'll be fine." And I just, that calmness of, it's coming through. It's going to mess up a couple of days and we go on. And now I understand
you
that.
You get it. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, sure.
That was when I lived in Ohio, and it really surprised me. It was the first time I talked with somebody getting ready for a hurricane. It was just like, the hurricane will be here on Tuesday. Give me a call on Thursday.
Yeah, it's got to be so matter of fact for those islands down there
Yeah.
that get battered
unless
every
they
year.
unless they really get slammed. But,
Well, that's a whole different
Yeah.
story. Yeah.
but and that happens when it happens, and And our hearts go out to anybody who is in the crosshairs when that happens.
And thank goodness Puerto Rico didn't get nailed. I was
yeah.
really worried about
Yeah.
that.
I was like you. I was relieved for them that it took this little jog and went around. And it'd be nice if it jogged its way out to the ocean. Obviously, that's not likely, but we'll take it. We'll manage. We'll survive. We'll help each other, and we'll get through this. That's what it's all about. And the bottom line is, no matter where you are, there's something that people need to come together and respond to. Right? In Ohio, it's tornadoes and floods and things like that. In Arizona, it's wildfires. Right?
Yes.
That took out like Mount Lemmon and stuff like that. You never know what's going to do where. A haboob it can go through. And
One
do
of my
something.
old producers is up in Payson, and they had a monster fire up in that area. It was
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, well, my family in Israel lost
Ugh.
the whole community to a fire. That's unusual that you lose the whole community. Usually it's a part of it. Well, but most of Mount Lemmon went when the lemon burned.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What was the name of that group that you said is here in Florida now?
the URJ,
Yes.
yes, the Union for Reform Judaism. And we're a member of that. We're a member of that, and also Aleph, the Alliance for Jewish Renewal. We're dual members. And but the URJ is much bigger. It's a world organization, and it has the resources, and they're putting together a network. And in fact, I've got to respond to their email when I get home. So let them know, what we anticipate and what'll be happening. So yeah, we'll take it one day at a time. We'll take it with every update as it comes. The news stations are happy. They've got something to really chatter about. Something a little different. The storm takes our minds off of everything else that's going on.
That it does.
So I will offer this other thing, which is that I think I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna try to hold a live chanting or something when the storm comes through. But you're certainly welcome to watch us on streaming. If you can't come to our congregation, we are having services Friday night as regular, and we'll hold in abeyance Monday's meditation. See what the weather's like, but
And save your podcast, because we are starting a Treasure Coast podcasting network,
ooh, okay,
which is going to incorporate almost all the shows done on WPSL and STU and even WJNX.
okay.
It'll be kind of cool.
That sounds great. I look forward to talking to you more about that.
Yeah.
So this is as good a time as any to mention that chanting, meditation are always things that help when you're dealing with something like a hurricane or while you're waiting. It doesn't hurt to do a little bit of chanting and meditation and just chill and respond in. We started to talk real briefly about it earlier when I said to drink water. One of the reasons for that is that wind actually shears electrons off from the molecules in our body. It's one of the reasons you feel at edge. And drinking water always carries spare electrons if you need them. And so when you rehydrate, you actually bring some balance back to you.
Interesting. Wow, I didn't know that.
So drinking water and drinking it mindfully is also actually going to really help. Drink it very intentionally and recognize that you are replenishing not only your hydration, but in fact electrons into your body that you need.
Interesting.
It's why taking a bath or a shower is very good after a storm. Why it calms you down.
Okay. Taking a shower or bath.
Mm-hmm.
Immersing yourself in
water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Because, if you think about it, we're mostly water.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
Water may not penetrate our body, but the electrons can come and go between us. And so, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, windstorms tend to uncharge the body, or discharge, or I don't know what the electronic term would be. I'm a mechanical engineer. When you lose I guess you get a positive charge. which means you can get zapped. So, and not, not profoundly zapped, but little,
Right.
those wonderful little shocks of water.
It'll get your attention.
Yeah, it'll get your attention.
Yeah.
So, but that's why you feel a little bit at edge, particularly in storms, is that imbalance.
And if you have a generator at home, make sure it's nowhere close to a garage or any place where
no piles of rags nearby.
where the fumes can get inside the house.
Oh, yeah.
Carbon monoxide.
Yep. Yeah, or have and a monoxide detector is also a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually learned to use those with our motorhome because they're
You bet.
required in the motorhomes.
Same as we did when we had the boat in the marina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are handy things. And, and we do have a generator. It's outside, close to the house, but not, And where it is, we'll pull it out because after the storm, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's actually on the back patio, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
You hope.
I hope not. Yeah.
Yeah.
And realizing, right, if it's a category 4 or 5, that things you don't expect to become airborne do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, but again, that's something you deal with it. Power outage, probably the biggest risk. and certainly what scares a lot of Floridians.
Well, and, the fact that, as you mentioned, we've been through it a lot. I think a lot of people are looking at the images of the Gulf. That area of Florida had not been hit before.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of that construction was older construction. Yeah. So it was kind of like I hate to, compare it to Homestead, but in a way that had never been hit either.
Right. Yeah, and that's an important point. The older homes were very often barely put together.
Yeah.
And people didn't have early warning. And they certainly didn't have shatterproof glass. They had very thin glass for windows. Lots of things. And we don't realize, but a lot of these places are in areas that only get hit once every century or two. And, somebody was telling me the other day, well, they'd lived there 40 years before the storm hit. Yeah, if you're in a 100-year target area, it's going to get hit once every blue moon, once every 100 years on the average, which could mean you could go 200 or 300 years and then boom, boom, boom. You don't know, right? These are statistics. It's
like Jacksonville's never been hit.
Yeah.
Go figure, But, it's just the way the map is structured. Yeah.
And, of course, one of the reasons why Florida is hit as often is because we have the most coastline of any state in the Union. So, if a hurricane's going to make landfall, it's got to hit some coastline.
That's right, yes.
And we've got a lot to offer on both sides.
Yeah.
Huge amount of coastline. If you compare that to, say, South Carolina, they don't have anywhere near as much coastline. So they're not going to get hit as often. And I've dealt with floods up north coming from hurricanes that cut across the country.
Mm-hmm.
So, weather is weather. It's part of the system. And as it said here, right? Blessed are you, source of life and nature, whose awesome power and strength fill our world. Inspire us to be strong in the face of all of life's difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right? So let's do that. Let's be strong. Let's help each other. Let's allow this situation to bring out what's good in people, what's helpful. This is how we can help each other. And, let's forget the things that divide us, and let's remember that we all are human. We all have a heart. We all have lungs. We all have the same basic stuff. None of us are any less than anybody else. We're all God's creations. We're perfectly human. God doesn't expect us to be angels. God expects us to be human. So let's do that and show each other what we can do and what the good in all of us is. Because it's these times that we need to do that. We need to reach out, be there for each other, help each other, and And remember that it's one planet, one human race, and we're on this boat together. And and we pray for anyone who's anywhere in the path.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Before, during, and after.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
That's what we learned from Francis Jean and, of course, Wilma the following year. The cooperation and neighbor helping neighbor was absolutely phenomenal.
And that's, if you will, the silver lining on anything like this. May everybody have the resilience they need. May they have somebody they can lean on so they can come back, snap back, and come back to pretty much the same normal, maybe a little smarter, a little kinder, a little more community-oriented when we come out the other side. Because when we do that, then we take advantage of life's trials to make us better. And we always have that choice. We can have something weaken us and make us less, make us bitter or angry at what we can't control. And the bottom line is the only thing we can control is how we respond to what happens in life.
Yeah.
Right? We can't control the weather. We can't control our neighbor. We can't control our significant other. We can't even control our dogs or our kids. So, but you can control what you do, and you can up it a notch. You can take it up one notch. You can be as good as you can be at all times. And when we do that, then, doesn't matter if there's a storm or not. We can still be there for each other.
Mm-hmm.
We can help make the world a better place. And we can achieve more significance for ourselves by doing that. So it satisfies, most human needs. We'll survive better. We'll be healthier, happier, more fulfilled when we work together. Storms are just a reminder that is so essential for our own survival, for the survival of the animals, and everyone else. So this has been Rabbi Shafir Loeb for Ask a Rabbi. No more calls yet today, and that's fine, but hopefully you'll give a call next week, and things will be back to normal post-Dorian. For Congregation Eitz Chaim, this is Rabbi Shafir Loeb.
You've been listening to Ask a Rabbi right here on WPSL, Port St. Lucie, WPSL.com, webcaster to the world on Alexa and Google Home. All of our new listeners in Miami and West Palm, you guys be safe down there as well.